Hey everybody, Steve here with the Phantom History Podcast and Phantom History House, and I'm really excited to introduce you to Tiffany FitzPatrick, who is our resident psychic for the weekend, who helped us with our grand opening here at the Phantom History House. Before I dive into how we met and why you're here, tell me a little bit about yourself. How do you identify yourself as in what you do?
I identify as a great eclectic witch who is also a psychic medium. I have been strengthening my psychic medium abilities my entire life. I've been reading divination, intuitive divination, including both tarot and bones, for more than 17 years. And I've been studying eclectic witchcraft for more than 20 years.
Which is amazing because you have told me that you kind of like constantly hone your craft and you learn well from a very young age, and it's constantly you're learning more and more based on what we've talked about. We met completely randomly during a trip that Tim and I took to Indianapolis. We found you at a Paranormal Day festival at the Hannah House and
Yes.
just outside of Indianapolis, and connected immediately,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting. And then we were able to bring you down here to be a part of our grand opening. Um, Tell me a little bit about how you discovered you had these abilities, because you started very young, like starting to research what you were feeling and what you were able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I was raised in a Christian household, and that didn't really feel like home. So I started studying various religions and kind of landed on Wicca, which is where I started. I don't identify as a Wiccan now, just because I have become much more eclectic.
Hmm.
But I started at about 12 years old, and I studied for 2 years before I began practicing. But that actually was the second chapter. I knew that I had abilities that I didn't quite understand because I could see things as a very, very young child. And it, I didn't push that aside like so many children do when I was told, well, you're just having an imagination or a bad
Right.
dream or it's not real. It didn't really work for me. So I had to find another way to work with what I was seeing and what I was feeling. And so I began learning how to protect myself. And that was actually really the first form of energy work and magic that I started discovering.
Hmm.
And it just kind of built from there.
Now, when you say you were seeing things, you told me earlier what you
Yes.
saw, but how do you describe what you saw? Because I'm very into like the ghost stories and the paranormals and those who are no longer among the living. Is that kind of what you saw, or was it something different?
It was actually several things.
Uh-huh.
So I would see past loved ones, past family that were visiting me. My One of my grandmothers would sit on the edge of my bed and just kind of sit there throughout the night. But she had passed long before I was born.
Uh-huh.
I would see other family members, but I would also see angels and different types of angels. But much more scary, I would also see demons and darker entities and darker beings, kind of almost this like angel demon battle, essentially.
Hmm.
And one thing that I wish I had known when I was younger was how terrifying battle angels can look when they're in their battle gear trying to battle demons and dark entities. You don't really know the difference when you're looking at something that they're not used to being seen. So it was kind of seeing a lot of very different things, everything from shadows moving to fully formed demonic energies and angels on the other side. And so I would see a little bit of all of that, and it was just very confusing and
Right.
slowly having to kind of figure it out and then look back at my memories and be like, oh, that's what that was.
Right. And so you saw the good and the bad. I mean, you
Yes.
saw a mix. Um, Fast forwarding in your life, you of course discovered that you had these abilities. You've studied. You're an eclectic witch, as you say. So there's a lot of different practices that you do.
Yes.
What are your specialties that you do? Like, what is your niche, I guess, if there is one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm very big on not making myself niche down. I believe in expanding one's lane rather than zoning in on and staying in one's lane.
I like that.
Thank you. Thank you. I bring that into really all that I do in business and in my life. My very first and most prominent skill that I'm most passionate about and continue to work with is protective energies and protective magics. I believe that everyone needs to know how to find their own energy, how to find their own magic, and how to build that and create their own protective shields. Having a protective shield around you, very much like a protective shield in like Star Trek, where it's kind of everything bounces
Mhm.
off of it. That same concept within ourselves, especially if we're in a big crowd and we're empathic and we have a lot of energy coming towards us. it can essentially protect our battery so that we can hold a charge longer and be in that environment longer without it really kind of sticking to us and affecting us much sooner.
What you do helps a lot of people,
Thank you.
which is amazing that you have that ability to do that and you recognize this. Was there a part on your journey where you realized that, where you were like, what I'm able to do can help my fellow man or woman? And what was that like for you?
I can't think of one particular experience. It really was much more several smaller experiences. And I think it probably really started with remembering what it felt like to not have anyone listen to me as a kid, but feel like what I had to say was really so important. And knowing that if I was going through that as a kid, surrounded by adults, then there's probably a lot of other people that felt that as children, whether they're children now or they were children that were not listened to. And another part of my business is very big on like reparenting and inner child work. And so essentially, that child that was never listened to is still a part of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, wanting to let people know that there was someone there to believe them, to hold space for them, to hear their stories, to help them. And sometimes just that validation helps us validate ourselves and helps that start that process to believing in ourselves and healing all of those wounds of not being heard.
Right.
And one aspect of that is spiritual experiences through the veil, magical abilities, magical gifts, if you will.
Yeah.
And sometimes all you need is for someone to believe you so that you can really believe yourself. And while I'm very big on validating ourselves and having that within ourselves, when it comes to the spiritual realm or dealing with other dimensional energies, it's really important to have someone else also help us validate that.
Right.
So I definitely don't want it to be like, oh, I need everything from outside of myself to really know that I have this. But it bounces back and forth. There's that mirror assistance.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I'm glad you brought that up, and also thank you for the Star Trek reference. That was,
you're welcome.
I like to throw that in there. Huge fan. But we have talked a lot about Phantom History House being a place where people can share their experiences. You can tell your ghost story. You can talk about your experience. What is it like for you when somebody sits down with you at your table for a reading and you like see them open up that door to be like, I can trust you. I can share this with you. What does that feel like for you?
It's it's just an unbelievably powerful honor. It just feels, I feel so honored when I'm able to help someone feel that they can share with me. Um, I love collecting those little information, those experiences. Like you do, you love collecting ghost stories,
I do.
and so it's very similar. Like I love collecting those stories and those experiences because they're all so different. And I do remember feeling there was a time where I didn't even really realize I was a psychic medium because my experience didn't look like the ones I was seeing on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took me a while to really kind of piece that together. And so I love seeing all these different experiences, and it just feels like such an honor to be able to be a catalyst in the lives of so many people so that they feel just that one solid footing to move forward on their path, even if I never see them again or I never know how their journey turns out. Just knowing that I could help provide that solid footing that they may need to have the courage to move forward and take another step.
And what I love about what you said there too is, everybody's path is a little bit different. Everybody's experience is a little different. And in your professional world of being a psychic medium, every psychic medium has their own way of doing things or interpreting things or seeing things. And I've really enjoyed meeting people who do what you do and kind of seeing that you're like, oh, they don't do it wrong. They just do it differently than me, which is amazing. But for anybody watching this who might be a little bit leery of getting their tarot cards read or osteomancy or any of those readings, what would you say to them? Not to try to convince them to do it, but to let them know that it's okay. What do you say to those folks who are a little bit scared?
That's such a great question. Because there are a lot of people who feel their initial worries that I'm going to give them bad news or that I'm going to tell them when they're going to die or if they know someone that's going to die. That's a lot of the fear that I normally get initially. And so what I would say is any reader or diviner that's worth their salt will, even if there is bad news in the cards or in the reading, they will deliver it in a very calm, compassionate, loving way. Sometimes, depending on who I'm reading for, the cards will let me know, hey, this is a no sugarcoating reading. But they'll let me know ahead of time. So even with that, I will tell the client just so you know, this is saying that you need this without that sugar coating, but that's how you receive information the best.
Mhm.
And so I would say, even if there's bad news, which is really not as common as most people think, I'm never going to tell you when you're going to die. I'm never going to tell you if someone else around you is going to die. Not because I'm withholding that information, just because timing is so different. Timing is a construct that we impart on our human lives. And so the cards and the bones don't really activate on that same line. But any information that is delivered should be in a very positive light, a very lesson that you can learn light, and bookended with positive energy as well. Receiving a reading should be very much like having a positive experience of either going on a date or going to get your hair done or having a day at the spa. There may be moments that are uncomfortable, um, new, different, but essentially the whole of the experience should lean more on the positive side.
Mhm.
And if it's not, if that's not, I would be concerned about inspiring other people to go to see that particular reader. You should be walk away from the table with a positive experience.
And a lot of it is self-reflection as well, right?
Yeah.
Because I know when I've done readings, or not done readings, received a reading, usually it's a lot of things that I knew about myself, but it was like confirmation about myself, or I looked at myself from a different point of view.
Yeah.
So
I have
is
a
that
lot of
kind of the
that.
same thing?
Yeah, I have a lot of that same feedback come back of them, my readers. I apologize. The people that I sit for and read for telling me, "Oh, I kind of knew that. That sounds real familiar. Like I've heard that from other people, or I've heard that myself." And essentially, it's sometimes we need to hear information from an outside source
Mhm.
or from a source like a stranger for it
Right.
to really impact us and for us to act on it. And so, a lot of times, I'm really grateful that the cards and myself get to act as a catalyst for that reading.
You've been doing this for, I think you said about 17 years or so,
Reading intuitively.
reading intuitively, which, is not a short amount of time. You've been doing this for a while, and that's by no means an insult. It means you know what you're doing and you're learning as you're
Thank
going.
you.
So that's a good thing. Kind of flipping the script a little bit on this. If somebody's watching this and they think they have that ability, but they're not sure, or they're that 12-year-old or younger seeing things and they're like, what is happening? What is your suggestion for them or advice for them in order to kind of hone that or to understand what they're experiencing?
Hmm. That's a good question. I've never had a question posed quite like that before.
I'll
As
take
far
that as a win.
as yes, absolutely, really engaging that critical thinking. I would say, as far as if you believe that you have the ability to read or divine, lean into it. Look at different forms of divination and which ones call to you. Trust your instincts of which ones are calling to you. I started with tarot, and it took me quite a while to lean into the bones, which were calling me to piece together my own bone kit. And so, trust your instincts. I'm very drawn to tarot, but I have no skill currently where it comes to palmistry, but you might. So, what different types of divination are calling to you, and lean into it. I would also strongly encourage that while, yes, look at the instruction manual and the rules and what traditionally is how you read something, but at the same time, leave yourself a lot of leeway to read how you read. That's how the intuitiveness comes into it. The psychic ability comes into it. Is yes, there are rules, but the rules don't work for everyone. It's just a standard procedure for you to operate or to start operating with. I do not read traditionally. So a tarot card that may mean one thing traditionally in that book that gives you all the rules may mean something completely different for when I read one client and then another client and then another client, even though it's the same card.
Mhm.
And it's the same with the bones. Your question about if you're seeing things and setting that aside is not working for you, or you know what you're seeing but you're not really finding the support around you to help you believe. I hope that you can approach your loved ones who are trying to squash that and know that compassionately they really are just trying to protect you, and maybe they just don't know the right way to go about it. Trust yourself. Call on angels, whether you're Christian or not. You can call on angels. You can call on protective energy. You can call on your spirit guides, even if you don't know the names of them. And you literally, just by asking for protective energies to wrap around you while you're figuring this all out for yourself. That was where I started, was learning to protect myself while I had everything, so much going on around me, so I could maybe feel safe as I tried to figure it out.
Mhm.
And so start there, research, be your own advocate, do your own research, never stop learning, always leave room to be wrong, always leave room for adaptation and to learn more and incorporate more.
That's a really great answer and really
Thank
good
you.
advice. And one thing that I love about the relationship we've built is I look at you kind of like, and this is funny, I don't think I've told you this yet. She's already nervous. Like, when you're a kid and you have your teacher, and then you see your teacher like out of the grocery store, and like, oh wow, they're a real person that does real stuff.
Yeah.
Here you are, you have this ability, but you're a real girl. I mean, you have a real life, you have
Oh yeah,
relationships, you have a day job. Um, I say all that to lead into my next question is, what do you think one of the biggest surprises is for people when they meet you or meet somebody who does what you do? Um, have you ever had any feedback about that? Like, oh, I didn't expect that of
Mhm.
this type of person or somebody in this field. Do you ever get that?
Occasionally,
Yeah.
most of the time I don't really feel like it comes to me. Like, I
Uh-huh.
feel like maybe that's discussed amongst people who learn about things that I do and my
Mhm.
my interest. Like you said, they're behind the day job or outside of close family. And
Mhm.
I think one of the things that has come up is, especially when adults who know me and know what I do have children, and they share that information with their children. Of one thing in particular, I know a friend of mine was watching Witches, the movie with um, Anne Hathaway,
Oh, okay.
and watching that with their children, and was like, that's not really what witches look like, right? And and of course the kids were just like, oh wow, a real witch. And so I think that's probably one of my favorite stories about how people, because they don't really expect, they don't really expect me to look like a witch, or what a witch looks like. I don't have any warts yet. My face isn't green, and I only fly on a broomstick when no one's watching. So,
And only at Halloween,
right,
right?
right, full moon, Halloween, exactly, like the Black Flame. So I think it's like you said, that we are real people, and so
Yeah.
a lot of times you don't really think a real person can be a witch, but so we blend in.
Yeah.
We do. We're it's just like any other spiritual practice or any other religion. You sometimes, when you look at someone, you can't always tell
Right.
what they believe or what they practice or what
Right.
they are mixing up in their cauldron at night. So
Right,
yeah.
exactly. And my cauldron for you on this visit has been breakfast, which you've thoroughly enjoyed, which I hear.
Yes,
So I'm so happy about
yes,
that.
thank you.
Here at the Phantom History House. So yeah, you're right. That's just a part of who you are. It's a large part of who you are,
Yeah,
but there's more to you. Same with me. Yeah, I have a podcast. I'm running this bed and breakfast, but there's a lot more to me than that.
right.
And I think that's what I love about interviews like this is it lets me tell people who are watching that we're all multidimensional,
Exactly.
in every sense of the word. I guess
Yeah.
we're not just what we are known for. There's a lot more to
Yeah.
us. Before I let you go, is there anything else you wanted to say about either your abilities that you have, or any advice for anybody who's thinking about getting a reading from somebody? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah. So to touch on that last point, we mentioned earlier how I'm very pro expanding your lane rather than find your lane and stay in it. And I think that really harkens back to multidimensional, because we are so multidimensional.
Mhm.
So many of us wear different hats, but a lot of times in that we feel like we have to kind of faucet ourselves out of being this person with this crowd and this person with this crowd. And I hope that I can inspire a little bit of hope and inspiration to maybe bring all those together, to integrate who we are, the different hats that we wear, so that we can be seen as all of those things, and not worried about kind of shying us away from one topic or one title. Or that's a lot of what I do when it comes to incorporating shadow work, and because which comes up so much in my readings, is explaining that, of integrating back into yourself all of these sides of yourself, and realizing that you get to be multidimensional within one individual, within one being.
Mhm.
And so when it comes to readings, if you're wanting one, again, go with your instincts, have fun with it, um, and just try and be open for the information that comes forward. You can ask for just a general reading. A lot of people are like, oh, I maybe I should have had a specific question to ask you. but that's not necessary. You can pick a topic, you can have a specific question, or you can just ask for a general reading that comes through. You can set the intention going in of, oh, I really want this to be a positive, calm reading, especially if you are afraid that for some reason you're going to receive bad news. But yeah, you can set the intention and the tone before you even come to the table. If you are really wanting a reading but you don't know who to read with, first of all, hi. I do read virtually.
Yep. I was going to be where we were next, but go on.
Oh, there you go.
No, you're good.
I skipped ahead. It's okay. But also look around your community. See if there is a holistic fair or a spiritual fair or a psychic fair that's going on where you would literally have your pick of readers around you that you could feel into. Oh, I like their energy. I like their spirit. They seem to be having fun. What calls to you? And then you can sit down at their table and ask for whatever type of reading they're offering and have fun with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And the virtual thing, I wanted to say, I said that was like my last question, but I lied. The I mean, the pandemic changed a lot of things for everybody on how we work. So many people went virtual, and a lot of us still work virtually in our day jobs. Yeah. When you do a reading virtually, is it different than sitting across the table from somebody, or is it just a different method?
It's actually the same method, and it's the same as sitting across the table. Because I incorporate a lot of quantum physics and dimensional physics into it. So there, in the 3D, of course, we're sitting next to each other on the couch. Fourth dimensionally, and which is mostly what I work with when I'm in the virtual setting reading, is even though we're how many miles apart from whoever we're with, or whoever's viewing this video, fourth dimensionally, you're right here as well. And so that it's the same concept of we're leaning into dimensional energy to kind of follow those energetic threads and create a cord, create a bridge, so that I'm reading you just the same as I would if you're sitting right next to me. Yeah. So it is very much the same.
It's thinking in a different way, like you said, with the quantum physics side. If somebody wants to hire you to use your abilities, either virtually or in person, how do they find you? What is their next step in order to get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a link tree. The easiest way to find me, all of my socials, what I have going on, podcasts that I've been on, like this one, is to find me at Linktree. It's linktr.ee/Tiffany FitzPatrick. And I'm sure you can put that down in the fun notes and stuff, so you don't have to.
I definitely will. We will link to that. And of course, it'll be on the Phantom History podcast page. This will be on our YouTube channel. Great. So you can link to all that. And we do want to have you back here. We worked you like almost to death this weekend, but we got amazing feedback from all of your clients who visited with you this weekend. We're thrilled to have you here. So yes, highly recommended from Phantom History and Phantom History House, Tiffany FitzPatrick. We're so lucky to have you here, and I'm so glad that we met you last summer. And not only do we have a new professional colleague, we have a new friend, which is what we always want.
Absolutely. Right. I'm moving in next week.
Speaking of which, you stayed in the Ouija room while you were here.
I did.
What is your take on the Ouija room?
I did. It was interesting how with the Ouija room, so there's actually several Ouija boards and planchets in and around the room. And one thing that really fascinated me, being an energy reader, was how any energies or entities or kind of like wafts of spirits or whatever that had been in the house, around the house, entered the house with someone else, it kind of all seemed to congregate and come together, like hanging out in the Ouija room, which I thought was really interesting because it's such a big house and a big property. Like you said, you have over an acre here, which is amazing. And so it was fun to see how that energy is kind of congregated there, like almost like they were waiting for a phone call, if you will. So
interesting way to put that. Okay.
Yeah, with with the Ouija boards and whatnot. But also, wow, it was just such a stunning room. It's been so comfortable, like stunning and comfortable, which you don't always go hand in hand, especially when we're dealing with like Ouija and paranormal and communication. But what I love about the whole property and the room, obviously I was able to sleep or I wouldn't have made it through the weekend, was how the energy was not negative. There was no ill intent, there was no darkness, which, as we've discussed, I can see both sides. So it's just a very, very comfortable both on this side of the veil and the other, which I think is a beautiful thing that you've done here.
Well, thank you. That's high praise, and I definitely appreciate that. That's what we want everybody to feel while they're here, comfortable and or creepy, if you want that,
Yes.
elegant and eerie. All those fun wordplay. Thank you so much for not only being here this weekend, but for doing this quick video for me. I
Yeah,
know we've it's been a busy weekend, so
it
thank you for that.
has. Very busy, but an absolute blast.
Awesome.
And I'm excited to do it again.
All right, we definitely will. And check out all of the links below in order to get in touch with Tiffany. Book her for an appointment, whether in person or virtually. Or next time we have her here at the Phantom History House, she will be on our events page, and you can come here and get a reading with her in our library, or maybe even in the Ouija room. So until next time, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in, and thank you, Tiffany, for your time.
Thank you.
All right.